guys, it's Shanice. Welcome back to my channel. If you've been here before, welcome if you're new. Today we are talking about all things Aruba. I recently just came back about a month ago, but I recently just uploaded my Aruba vlog. So if you guys want to see the day today of everything that went down, make sure to go check out that vlog. Shout out to Joy and the rest of her girls. We had such an amazing time there. But with that being said, we did learn a lot of things in Aruba that I think can help you plan your next trip there. I have divided this video into chapters, so feel free to skip ahead and take what you need from the video. Although I always recommend watching the whole video so you guys can get a complete understanding of what to expect in Aruba. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a big thumbs up. It definitely helps grow my channel and pushes out my content to more people like you. A little disclaimer before you begin, travel updates are always changing. So if you do need any extra updates, be sure to check out Aruba's official website. So let's begin with the required things needed to go to Aruba. So I'm speaking from a US perspective. Some other countries, Aruba may require different things from those citizens, but specifically talking from a US perspective, you will need a passport. You will need to also complete their ED form, which is kind of just like going over your information, your basic information, where you live, just kind of like that overall information. That paper will need to be shown at the airport. Specifically, we left from JFK, so we needed to show that to certain people in JFK. It's kind of like the approval that Aruba knows that you're traveling from the US to Aruba. One other thing, I guess during COVID, the insurance was definitely required, but as of right now, there's no insurance required to go to Aruba. It's definitely recommended, but you're not required to. Typically, JetBlue sends an email that says that is required, but Aruba doesn't require you have insurance, specifically again from a US perspective, to go to Aruba. Now let's talk about phone service. So if you do not have an international phone plan on your phone, there are places, or at least like I know I saw a spot in the Aruba airport where you can go and pick up a SIM card to kind of put in your phone. But the one thing that I really wanted to touch on is the app WhatsApp. Most of you already know about WhatsApp by now, but if you haven't, it is an app that you can use to kind of communicate with different people. And I would say that is a requirement to have on your phone when going to Aruba. Typically, a lot of people on the island do utilize this app. So please, please, please make sure you put that app on your phone. Okay, so let's talk about arrivals and departures. So let's start off with arrivals. When we got to Aruba, we were so excited. We have been talking about this for so long, and we were just excited to land. Typically, when you get off the plane, you'll walk through this like long hall. It's blue. It has like carpets with different thing on it, like One Happy Island. That's the other name for Aruba. It has Bene Bene, I think that's how you pronounce it. And then you get to see the Welcome to Aruba sign. It was just really nice. You are then going to go on to customs. Within customs, there is a self-serve side, and there is also a side where, you know, actual human beings are helping you. But typically they send most people to the self-serve side, as that does go a little bit faster. I would say customs probably took no more than, let's say, 15 minutes. One thing to note about the self-serve side, if you go through self-serve, which is kind of like the digital part, you're not getting an Aruba stamp, and that really made me sad, but I do have pictures to prove that I was there, so it's okay. After the customs part, you're gonna go to a bag pickup. You're gonna pick up your bag. The Aruba airport is pretty small, so like everything is kind of right there. After the bag pickup, you're also gonna go through a suitcase check. When we got to the suitcase check part, I don't know if sometimes randomly they just kind of let people go because it's too much people. That kind of happened to us. We didn't have to go through the suitcase check, but typically the suitcase check is kind of like TSA in a way, not necessarily for you, but for your suitcase to kind of go through that scanning. After you go through the suitcase check, you will be able to go outside. If you have a ride pickup, you can, you know, go to the ride. If you have a rental, you can do all of that after the suitcase check. So now let's talk about departures. So to leave Aruba to come back to the US specifically, you will need a CDC attestation form, which I think is pronounced. So it's kind of like similar to you going to Aruba and filling out that ED form. The CDC form is kind of like filling out your basic information, name, last name, address. Typically, if you're not a US citizen, as far as I noted, you will have to also get a COVID test to come back. But if you are a US citizen, you will not need a COVID test to come back into the US. I recommend trying to get to the airport as early as possible to avoid lines. I think we got to the airport around 11, if I'm not mistaken. So literally right after we got to the airport is when the line started picking up. More people were getting to the airport. So I recommend getting there as early as possible. I think we got there 11 and I don't think our flight was until like 1:30 or something like that. So get to the airport as early as possible. Just make sure you know what time the departure desks are opening up in the morning. So the process of leaving Aruba, especially going back to the US, is way different than it has been in other islands. So typically with Aruba, I know they are one of the countries that has US customs when you are departing, which I actually didn't know that. It just made the process so much faster. You have to deal with a lot in Aruba doing that, but coming back to the US, literally you get off the plane and you're able to just go get an Uber. You don't have to go through the actual US customs in JFK. I left from JFK, so you don't have to go through that customs when you come back. So once you do your bag check, you check in your bag, you weigh it, make sure it's all good. You're gonna go through that, and then you are going to, and I have this on my phone just so I can remember. So you're gonna go through, check in your bag, then you're gonna go through security, which is just typically like, kind of like TSA. They kind of check you out. Then you're gonna pick your bag up after you're already checked in, which is different, really different. So you're gonna pick your bag up. There are also different shops and things if you wanna kind of get stuff before going on the plane. But typically I would say don't buy too much here because there is also stores after this process. So this is when you're gonna go to US Customs. They ask like, how long did you stay? What was the reason why you came here? So everything that you would do in the US once you came back and landed, you do that in Aruba, which I thought pretty cool. And then after you go through US Customs, you're gonna drop your bag off again. So check in, security, pick your bag up. You get to do different shops. Then you're gonna go to US Customs, drop your bag off again, and then you're gonna go through security with your carry-on, and then you can go to the different shops again. So the process is a little bit more than you would experience in other islands, but that US Customs part really makes coming back to the US all the much easier. And I hope you guys understood that. Okay, so next let's talk about transportation. Everyone always wants to know, should you rent a car? Should you find someone to drive you around? And I always have a recommendation after I've come back from someplace. My recommendation for Aruba is to rent a car. Rent a car. Please do. Taxis, they will run your wallet up. You will be spending a lot of money. Although I do recommend renting a car, do having a driver that you know can pick you up. If you are pretty young and you would like to go out, get turned, get lit, drink a little, you do want to make sure you have a driver, like a taxi, someone that you know and trust that can like drive you back home if you guys don't want to have a designated driver. But again, I recommend renting a car. They drive on the, for a US car, like if you're from New York, you know, you drive on the left side, like the driver's seat is on the left side of the car. So that's still the same way when you go to Aruba. Typically it's different in other islands. Like I know for Barbados, their driver's seat is on the right side of their car. But for Aruba it's on the left side, and they also drive regularly on the right side of the street. The only thing that I would note is that they do have a lot of roundabouts. So you want to make sure that you're driving pretty safe, noting that, you know, those roundabouts may come up as well. So we didn't do a rent-a-car. We actually had got a driver. It was 5 of us. Our trip was booked through a travel agent, and she booked Kini Tours to kind of take us around the island whenever we needed a driver. Can book through Kini Tours. Our driver, his name was Jason. Hey Jason, if you're watching this, but he was our driver. He was so helpful during our trip. Like sometimes we didn't have a driver for certain days, so he really helped us and accommodated us in those days. Do want to find out if he's available. I don't like putting people's information directly in my YouTube videos, so feel free to hit me up on Instagram and I'll send you his information if you do need a driver. He was one of the drivers from Kini Tours, so again, you can also just book directly through Kini Tours. Please bring cash. I know a lot of people like to bring their cards and everything. bring cash when it comes to cabs, especially like if you want to tip someone. Cash is very, very important if you are going to be taking cabs. So now let's talk about where to stay in Aruba. We stayed at an Airbnb. I know some people like hotels, but when we go on trips, we like to stay all together. So we stayed at an Airbnb in Aruba, and I can say it was definitely a nice Airbnb, and we really loved it because it was inside of like a gated community. So the Airbnb was within Gold Coast community. So typically when people would have to drive up, they have to see an agent and then be able to get let through the gates. And I feel like it was very, very safe. We loved that about it. And then our Airbnb was kind of right there. So as soon as the people would come in, our Airbnb would be there and we got right in. The full Airbnb tour is in my Aruba vlog, so be sure to check that out if you guys want to see a little bit more than what I'm showing in this video. The host of the Airbnb was so sweet. I asked my friend Joy to give her a rating out of 10 and she said 12 out of 10. And she was just saying that basically the host was just the host answered immediately whenever she had a question, and also towards the end of the trip she kind of helped us get food because the restaurant we were calling was not answering, and she really did not have to do that, but out of the kindness of her heart she did. So I am gonna link her Airbnb down below. If you are someone interested in it, you guys can book through the link. Although we stood at an Airbnb, our driver did tell us that a lot of the hotels are really close to Eagle Beach. I think that's kind of like in the downtown area, but again, I didn't stay at a hotel, so I'm not too sure. That would be something you have to research on your own. And if anyone's from Aruba watching this video, be sure to comment some helpful tips to kind of help the other people watching to come see your beautiful island. So now let's touch on things to do in Aruba. What are you gonna be doing? Activities, clubbing? Let's talk about it all. First thing I want to touch on is if you want to see what happened on a day-to-day basis, go watch the vlog. But we stood for about four to 5 days. So our half day that we stood the first day, we went out to dinner. I'll touch on restaurants in a little bit. The first full day, we did a yacht party. So that's an option for you. It was about 5 of us and we were on a boat by ourselves, just kind of like went out. They got to go in the water, like kind of like snorkel a little bit and then come back on the boat. I don't have the link for that, so I'm really sorry. Again, it was booked through a travel agent. So for the second full day, we did a Jeep safari. The Jeep safari, it brings on like this bus. It's about 12 to 15 of us on the bus. It's open, so it doesn't have like windows, so you'll have that air to come through. And it drives you through this like rocky road type of thing. It was so bumpy, like so bumpy. And we got to kind of see the lighthouse in Aruba. They took a lot of us to, I think it's called Kokachi. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'll just put it on the screen. Basically took us to this area where it was so much stairs to get down there, so much stairs. But once you get down there, people can go and jump in the springs. I personally didn't do it just because my hair was getting on my nerves at that point, but my friends who did do it, they loved that experience. It was like spring water. And then once we came back, they kind of drove us back to our hotel area, or like the hotel that the bus picked us up from. And then they also have UTV and ATV, or I think it's UTV, one or the other, but they also have that as an experience as well. So we didn't do that part, but I know that that is an aspect. So if you would rather do that over the Jeep safari, that is an option as well. For our third full day, I might be having this all mixed up, so I'm just going to talk about what we did. We also did Day Palm Island. Day Palm Island is basically an island that has a lot to do on it. So it does have like water slides. You can do like the banana boat experience, which was really fun. You can see flamingos, although this is where we need to talk about. So there are two aspects of seeing flamingos when it comes to Aruba. So there are flamingos on Day Palm Island, but if you're buying your initial primary ticket, there is an area where you see flamingos, but you cannot feed them. You can only see them. They're in their own, like, I don't want to say cage, but they're in their own area where you cannot come up close to them. And I know most people who go to Aruba, they want to see the flamingos up close. So there is an aspect where you have to pay extra on top of your primary ticket to see the flamingos up close and personal. Or instead of Day Palm Island, you can see flamingos through the Renaissance Hotel. Typically, people either book to stay at the Renaissance Hotel or they buy a day pass to kind of go see flamingos. We knew about seeing at Renaissance Hotel, but our travel agent had told us that we should do Day Palm Island just because there's more to do. Also at Day Palm Island, the meal is included for the day, so you can go eat. Your drinks are included. There's a bar, you can get unlimited drinks. And they have like a beach and different things that you can do there. So that's what we did, but we didn't know that there is an upgrade to the ticket in order to see those flamingos up close. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see the flamingos up close and personal. That doesn't mean you guys can't. This is why I'm utilizing this information to let you guys know. If you are going to Day Palm Island, make sure you upgrade your ticket if you do want to see flamingos up close and personal. During our time, we also went to, I think it's called Irachi Beach. I'm probably not saying it correctly, so I'll put the name across the screen. But that was the closest beach to our hotel, so we did have a full beach day, which was so much fun. Definitely go to the beach there. The beach is beautiful. As you know, island water is super blue and just clean, so we enjoyed our time at the beach as well. Some of us also went out to the club. So there is like a nightlife area, which is called Palm Beach. And typically there's like a club, there's a lot of restaurants out there. So if you guys are interested in doing like certain things like that at night, recommend going out to Palm Beach. So the club we went to was called South Beach. South Beach was really fun. They played a lot of like American / Caribbean music. And you could tell like there's a lot of Americans that also go to that club because we did see a lot of other people our age that were probably there on like spring break. Definitely recommend there. Typically, I would say the margaritas were about $16 and the shots were about $14. And if you're someone who's into hookah, they also sell hookah at South Beach as well. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the other things to do in Aruba that we personally didn't do, but I would recommend doing your research on them if this is something that you're interested in. So some of the options for another nightclub, I saw some people go to Gusto nightclub, so that's an option. I'm not really sure of the vibe there, but definitely check it out. There is Aruba Aloe Museum if you're into learning about the way aloe was made. It's an aloe factory out there, and Aruba does have their own kind of like Aruba Aloe brand, so you can get aloe out there. You can also go to the butterfly farm. I don't know what it's comprised of, but it did seem like a lot of fun, but we didn't get to do that because that wasn't planned into our schedule. So those are like a couple of extra things that you can do. Also recommend, if you do have a driver, like ask them what else is there to do in Aruba. What are some of the other things that locals like to do out here as well, just so you can get a complete idea of the touristy things as well as the local things that go on in Aruba. Okay, so now let's talk about one of my favorite things, food. So first things first, in terms of food that you may need if you're staying at an Airbnb, you want to have snacks. We were taken to a supermarket called Superfood. We went there straight after the airport. Superfood, compared to the US, like some things are a little bit more expensive, some things are a little bit cheaper. Like for example, eggs were like $3 in Aruba as opposed to like $10 in some places in the US. So that's something to note. But again, in Superfood that we went to, there was also a liquor store in there, so we got to kind of buy our alcohol. Alcohol is extremely expensive in Aruba, so just note to bring extra money if you are buying bottles. Let's talk about restaurants. A lot of the like high-end restaurants or like the more known restaurants, you will need to book a reservation. So again, typically make sure that your phone is working, make sure that you have WhatsApp, because you want to be able to contact the restaurants to let them know, or some of them you may be able to do online, but if not, you want to book some of the reservations ahead of time before you actually get there. Since our trip was booked through a travel agent, most of our reservations were done. When we got there the first day, we ended up asking Jason what is a place in Aruba that you would recommend to eat, because we didn't have any restaurant planned for that first night. So the first night he recommended Flying Fishbone. And when I tell you, this is probably the best food that we had during our time in Aruba. Like, it was 5 of us, all 5 of us can unanimously agree that was the best food that we had there. So Flying Fishbone is It was about, it's like seafood and like different things like that, and it was on the other side of the island. So just to note, that taxi from Gold Coast to Flying Fishbone was about $26. But again, Flying Fishbone, the food was so good. We got a lot of like appetizers. We got to try everyone's different things. So one person got fish cakes, I got ceviche, someone else got clams, someone got calamari. I forgot what the last appetizer dish is. The dish was. I forgot what the last appetizer dish was, but everyone's food was just like so good. Then for the full meal, I got what was considered the catch of the day on the menu. So typically, I guess they catch a certain fish and then they sell it. So I think mine was like mahi with mashed potatoes and vegetables. It was so good. And like, I'm not like a fish person. I don't really typically eat a lot of fish, but like, I can tell you like that food, A1, like A1. Also the bread that they brought to the table, best bread ever. Like, it was better than Red Lobster biscuits. Like, I'm gonna put that statement up there. Like, the bread was so good. It does have a lot of outdoor seating, and we got a table right by the water, which was really nice, and we got to kind of see the like fish and stuff. But I recommend don't sit like the table right next to the water, because water does come up, so a lot of like the sand and water got mixed in my heel. So I definitely recommend sitting, like seeing if you could sit a little bit off that coast. But it was so beautiful being there. Loved Flying Fish. Next restaurant we tried was LG Smith Steakhouse. On this night it was Joy's birthday, so we went there with, you know, the birthday vibe. The vibe at LG Steakhouse is kind of like a Mastro's. I don't know if any of you guys been to Mastro's, but it's like that high-end kind of like vibe in the restaurant. So I got salmon and buttery mashed potatoes there, and the food was actually, my food at least, was really good. I think everyone for the most part liked their food. The service was nice. They were really attentive, and if you do have any allergies, like they make sure to take care of you. Like, you won't have to worry about that. Like, that is one thing I would say. They were really attentive to their customers. On night 3 we went to a restaurant called Gianni's. So Gianni's is an Italian restaurant, so you can kind of expect that type of cuisine. We did have reservations, so we kind of like, we waited for about, I think 4 to 5 minutes, if that long, before we got seated at our table. But typically make sure you're getting your reservation for that night or day that you're going. With Gianni's, I ended up getting fettuccine. At that point I didn't really want fish, so I did get fettuccine, which wasn't bad. It wasn't the best that I've had in Aruba, but it was good for what it was worth. So night 4, when we came in, we didn't want to go out to dinner. We just wanted to order in. So we got food from Gold Coast Community Restaurant, and this is when I was saying the host actually helped us get food from here. With the Gold Coast Community Restaurant, it is a restaurant that I think is pretty close within the vicinity of the Airbnb. That's why we picked it. But I would say me nor the rest of the girls that ordered from here really liked our food. Like, it was okay, it did what it had to do, but preferably we would have probably rather to order from somewhere else or just go out to dinner, because compared to like the rest of the food that we had tried for the rest of the nights, it just wasn't cutting it. So this is the end of my Aruba travel guide video. Be sure to check out the Aruba vlog if you haven't already, if you want to see the day-to-day of everything happening. If you guys have any other questions of things that I didn't touch on regarding Aruba, be sure to put them down below in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a big thumbs up, as it does help push my content out for more people to see it. And until next time, bye guys.